All right, guys. I hope this is working. Last week I had a little issue with the audio, but I think I got it figured out this week. If it isn't working, let me know in the chat. And we'll just get underway here. It's 7 o'clock, and quite an episode last week. A few things happened. Things that I clearly did not predict at all. If you watched the previous live chat, I was not of the belief that Danny was going to turn into the Mad Queen. So quite a shocking event. Sets up a real interesting thing tonight. I don't know. I really wish I could say I knew what was going to happen. I think I might be out of the prediction game here, but we can talk about it. If you have questions or you have thoughts on the show that you want to talk about, I'll be happy to discuss them with you. And like I said, if I'm having any technical difficulties, just let me know, and we'll try to fix them as best I can. But last week was kind of crazy. A lot of people died. That was not totally out of the realm of possibility when I was talking about it. I was under the assumption that we were definitely going to get Clegane Bowl, which we did get. It ended in a draw. I wasn't exactly overly thrilled with the fight. It was good and interesting, but I don't know. I would have probably wanted to see a little bit more play out of that with things like maybe if the Hound could possibly have had some moment there where he got to, like the goodbye with Arya was good, but I felt it could have been a little bit better. So, but let's jump into some questions. William Tybalt says, "Do you think we'll see White Walkers again?" To be honest, William, if I had to guess, I'm going to say no. We might see them as like an extended commercial for the upcoming prequel, The Long Night, but I think that storyline is just done. I think the way that this season has played out, these things are over. Once we see a conclusion, there's no kind of secret, thing running in the background to bring it back later on. We will likely see some characters that we haven't seen in a couple episodes. I would hope to see Bran. I would hope to see Sansa and Brienne. These people are still around. They're still in the Seven Kingdoms, and they are going to have some part to play in the future of the realm. But I just don't know how they're going to play that out in the show. We saw such a devastating thing happen last week, and there are spoilers out there that, or there's a poll out there actually that's many people think that Bran is going to be the one who wins, so to speak. I just can't. I still think that's reaching. I think this show has gotten a little bit more simplistic than what we're used to in the previous seasons. Even more simplistic than I thought it would become. So I'm not entirely sure we're going to see anything that really wasn't heavily foreshadowed in the last episode. And if there was anything that was really we were hit over the head with, it was Arya witnessed all of that destruction firsthand. She survived it, and she is a revenge machine. And we already know the writers of the show really like her as a character. They put her in a position to go and kill the Night King. And so, perhaps if I had to make a prediction, which again, I don't know where this show is going really anymore, Arya is going to kill Daenerys, and we're going to see, and I don't know why I said it that way, Daenerys, and then we're going to see maybe Jon Snow on the throne, or possibly Sansa. I mean, that would make kind of some sense there, that Arya looks up to Sansa. She knows now that Jon isn't truly a Stark. He's part Stark, but not, her brother as she thought. So, it kind of changes that dynamic. And so it's possible that that's where we see happen, that Sansa exacts revenge for all the people of King's Landing on Daenerys, and then Jon Snow gets installed as the head of Westeros, or Sansa. but I don't know. It seems like kind of a stretch. So, but shocking episode last week. I don't know. The problem with it I felt was it just the whole season's been kind of the same way, where it's been just a little bit too rushed. We've seen a lot of storylines get jammed into only a few episodes. We're looking at the six episode streak that we're on, even though they've been somewhat extended. A few of the bigger ones have been like 80 minutes. A lot of these storylines they could have put into like 2 seasons or more. I felt like, because the whole thing with Daenerys turning mad, it felt forced. She literally, and it's because of the speed, right? These people are now like warping all over the continent in no time, and so it's hard to tell how much time is passing between one moment and the next. And so we're left with this kind of weird situation where it's hard to build into that exactly what type of timeline we're looking at for her madness. Because if you think about it, if the whole Jon scene with him played out in a normal season of him kind of turning away from her or falling out of love or being wigged out that she's his aunt or whatever the case may be, at that point we would have probably as in a regular season, a full length season, been able to figure out that that was coming, right? This change was going to be taking over. But this legitimately happened over just 2 episodes. And so in the past, when these stories played out, they played out over a long period of time, or at least it was inferred, or it went over a couple of seasons, and then that's how you were able to tell that it took a long time for a character to get from point A to point B. And now we're looking at a situation in which it just happens in 1 or 2 episodes. So I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. Tonight could be anything, and like I said last week, if it's a train wreck, it's a train wreck. We'll go with it. It is what it is. The show was great for so long. I feel they've stumbled here at the end because they're trying to make it fast, and because of that, it suffered greatly. It's taken away from the overall story, which is a shame. So. William, another question. It says, in your opinion, are seasons 7 and 8 based off of Martin's plot points, or did the writers entirely make it up? I'm going to say that probably in the books, again, it kind of falls in that same category, right? The books are epic. I mean, they're epic, and so they take years, and it's not hard to understand that the things that are taking place in these books are taking years. In fact, Martin had to split one book into 2 and have them run essentially concurrently with each other because of people being all over the place and the years involved with all of this activity. So the main plot points are probably the same. Probably in the books, Dany does go mad. She has the lineage. We know that that's kind of a backdrop that's always been following the Targaryens around. They talk about it a lot in the books and in the show, that the Mad King was this person who wanted to commit genocide. So it all adds up for that stuff. But in the show, it was just so fast that it seemed to not make sense. I feel like in the books, if you read them, they're going to play out more slowly. The foreshadowing of her turn is going to be a little bit longer paced. And additionally, there's also a bunch of other stuff going on in the books that never made it into the show, right? Things like that there's the possibility of other Targaryens out there, or other weird stuff that's kind of on the periphery, and that really what they did in the show was make Cersei the surrogate for some of those backstories. Whereas in the book, she might start to take a backseat. In the show, they pushed her forward as the main villain to take the place of some of these other backdrops. But the end game is probably going to be the same, I think, which would be that Dany does go mad. So I don't think they're that far off. I will be interested to see how far off they get tonight. I will say that tonight's obviously the last one. After this, it's all over. There's no more theories to guess as far as the show goes. So it will be interesting that if these books are ever finished, and Lord willing they will be, but who knows, that we will get to see just how different it is. I think that there will be certain points of the story that will be wildly different than what was in the show, but I think that maybe the main beats will be similar or the same. Camel Clyde says, definitely too rushed. Sad because HBO, George, and the actors were willing to go further. So much money in Game of Thrones, but the writers are in a hurry to get to Star Wars. And that's true. I think that is what's really harmed the show more than anything, has been that the two writers, they are ready to go make Star Wars films. And they're going to make tons and tons and tons of money for that. And their film credit will be one in which they are going to be able to go and basically if they don't totally blow it up, if they don't totally blow up the Star Wars trilogy that they're set to make, which, I mean, they could, who knows, but people are really slapping them around because of the way they've treated the Game of Thrones ending here, and saying that they're going to fail at the Star Wars thing. I don't know if that's really true. I mean, you got to give them an opportunity. They really did a great adaptation of these books for 6 years. So, at the very least, and season 7 could have been better, but it wasn't like the end of the world in season 7. There were some points that were stupid, but overall it wasn't bad. And then season 8, they've just rushed to the end. It's an abridged version. So I think they have the ability, and if you look at the last episode, their ability to film make, the ability for them to set a scene. I mean, that last show, for as nonsensical as it felt at times, the idea that we all watched that on TV and it wasn't in a movie theater is actually amazing, right? Because really, try to think of another service, like either Netflix, Hulu, any of those things that would be able to reproduce right now, would be able to reproduce what was reproduced in the last episode of Game of Thrones. I don't think they could do it. I don't think they have the talent to do it. I don't think they have the writers to do it. They can create great shows, but I've never seen anything like the things that these guys are producing on HBO on a small screen, meant for a TV, for a living room. So I think that they're going to do fine in terms of movie making. Whether or not they're good or not might be a different story, but they're going to make millions off of that. And so, yeah, they've already made a lot of money, but now they just saw, they've worked very hard, and they saw this gold mine here at the end of the rainbow. And I can't fault them for that decision. They've been working on the show for over 10 years. For themselves. I mean, if any of you guys out there have worked 10 years at a job, any job, it gets a little tiring after 10 years. After 10 years, you're kind of like, okay, I'm going through the motions. I don't really want to be here. And so you looked for greener pastures. And these guys got offered the greenest pasture that there is. Disney is going to pay them a bucket load of money to go make these Star Wars films. And they'll probably do all right. And really, even the bad Star Wars films, I mean, in terms of box office, they do okay. So these guys are not stepping onto in my opinion, not stepping into a minefield of any stretch of the imagination. They're actually headed off to make a lot of money. So it's unfortunate that they ended this fast to do that, but it is what it is, I guess, So William says, I feel like Star Wars will suit their writing style much better than Thrones, thankfully. And I agree with you on that one, William. I have to say that watching last week's episode in particular, the beats of that story in like a capsule by itself reminded me a lot of Star Wars movies. It had that kind of there was a backdrop of tension that you knew was building, and you were going towards something. We all weren't entirely sure what was going to happen, and then it ended up there was a giant, what ended up for many of us to be like a giant heel turn, right? And so that's kind of a great Star Wars-like thing where you're surprised by a change in a character, either for good or bad. And so it had the same beats. So I think that, I think that they would do good with that. I think that that's something that they know how to frame. They know how to get it, as we just saw, into a 2-hour format. Of course, all movies now that are franchise movies are 3 hours, but I mean, they're going to be able to really, I feel, do okay on those things. I don't think we're going to see bad Star Wars. Hopefully we don't see bad Star Wars, but we might. But I think they are set up to succeed. It's up to them, obviously, to do it. Chainbrain says, do you think we'll see Bran in this episode? So we might. There are rumors out there, and there is a poll out there saying that the person who is going to sit on the Iron Throne at the end of this is Bran. And I don't know what to believe. I personally, I don't watch spoilers. I don't. People go to Reddit and things like that. There's been leaked. As a matter of fact, the last episode, I guess, was leaked prior to it coming out, and now those same people who leaked the last episode have now leaked this one, and so people are saying they know the ending, and I guess people are unhappy about it. I haven't gone and looked at it. I don't want to know. I'd rather just go watch it and have a good time, and for good or bad, just be like, well, that's the end of the show. As far as Bran coming back, I could see his character coming back. It would make sense. He's still alive. He's still in this universe. He's not dead. He wasn't killed last week. There has to be some comeuppance between what has happened last week and Jon is still alive. Dany is still there, and like I was saying a little bit earlier, probably before you got here, was that Sansa is still alive, Bren is still alive. So there has to be some sort of reckoning, I feel, between the North and the South, right? And if that's going to be the case, then Bran is likely going to be there. What role he plays, I don't know. When I made the original Night King video, one of my things was basically stating, what a disappointment that arc was, and that it's over, and that we don't know what happened with Bran. And if he comes back at a later date just to tell us what happened, it might feel a little too late. I still believe that. Unless they bring him into this episode and he drops some knowledge on us that just blows everyone's mind, I feel that story stunk, and I feel that, him coming in now with any type of information is going to be like a glorified commercial for The Long Night, which is coming out like a year from now, I guess, the prequel. So I felt like that's kind of cheap. If he comes in now and just kind of gives us this backstory that we were kind of looking for prior to the face-off against the Night King, then it kind of cheapens the story. I understand why they did it, that they would do it for the sake of trying to hype up the next series and make more money, yada, yada, yada. But that shouldn't be the reason you're writing a story. The reason you're writing a story a certain way should be to entertain people. And I feel like if that was what they're doing, that they're going to set us up for tonight to tell us some big reveal and be like, see you next year, wink, and it's going to stink, right? It's going to be like, what? Why would you do that? The payoff, we all sat through 8 years of this show. That's what we want to see, not have to wait another year to figure out where this whole Night King story came from and why, and where was the Night King in the 8,000 years intervening before his creation and the fight at Winterfell, all that stuff. So will we see him tonight? It's possible. Anything is possible, in my opinion, at this point. Last week was a big shocker to me. I totally predicted the opposite. I said that there was no way that Dany was going to be mad. And then I was wrong. She went ahead and killed like 1 million people. So I might be the wrong guy to ask for opinions on some of this stuff. So William says, do you think we're going to get to know if the Night's Watch still exists in the aftermath of the Long Night? So I don't think so. I don't. We might get a glimpse of that. I don't think they're going to go in depth. I think last week I had said, leading into last week, I didn't feel we were going to get any huge reveals. I was wrong, obviously. We did with Dany turning mad. But the reason I felt that way was because of how much stuff they had to deal with only 2 episodes to go. And so now we're down to 1 episode, and they still got a ton to deal with. There is a massive reckoning that's on the horizon here. So we might see it as like a bumper at the end, like when things get resolved or we have a resolution of some sort to this story. Maybe they reference it or they show the wall being rebuilt. That's the question, right? This thing's been destroyed. So who's rebuilding that thing? It was supposed to be mythically built by like giants and magic and all sorts of crazy stuff. So I don't know where that goes. We might see like a snippet. Hey, yeah, we still need that. We still need the Night's Watch, but I don't know. I have no idea. Have you not seen the leaked episode? No, I haven't, Torben. Thank you. So yeah, I guess it's been on Reddit. I don't know, like in terms I don't watch the spoilers myself. I try not to even read them. I just basically go and watch the show straight on just to see what's going to happen and then make my own decisions there. I know that they leaked the last week's, like I was saying earlier, they'd leaked last week's before it came out, and they were correct, I guess, with a lot of the things they had said. And now those same people have come back and leaked this one. And they're probably right on that one, too. I mean, these things, I know they keep them, like, locked in a vault, but, someone's out there, especially now with the negative. I think before, when the show had such a positive push behind it, people were very, very resistant to any spoilers. And now the show's kind of got a negative tinge to it. A lot of people might be like, can I save myself 80 minutes and just go watch this? And so the negative pushback or the pushback on spoiling has been kind of, people don't care as much. So I personally haven't taken part in any of it, but we'll see what happens. There could be something there. Do you think we'll see Jon pet Ghost by the end of this episode? I don't know. I think that Ghost is gone, but maybe. I was under the assumption that after Jon Snow let Ghost go, that was the end of Jon Snow. I thought Jon Snow was going to be dead. I figured that was like his spirit animal. He was sending him away, and so that was going to be the end of end of Jon Snow in that episode. So, will he pet him? Yeah, I don't know. Like if they set up the crazy stuff like that, I'm probably not the best guy to predict. Like I said last week, I was totally off on so many predictions. When I thought I had a sense of where the show was going, they kind of hit me over the head with a hammer last week. So this week, who knows? For all I know, everyone just goes up north and lives happily ever after. And they just go, we didn't need King's Landing anyway. High five. Let's get out of here. We'll see. So we'll see what happens. The show that's coming up here in about an hour and a half or so should be interesting. I'm sure they have some surprises for us in the coming show. I don't know if they're gonna be any good. I don't know if the payoff's gonna be great. So I kind of got very disappointed in the way things played out last episode, because I felt like there was a lot of good endings to stories, but I felt like because they were so truncated, we didn't get to see them really blossom to their full extent. One of the things that I thought would have happened was that Clegane Bowl was going to happen, but the Hound was going to get mortally wounded in his fight against the Mountain. He was going to kill the Mountain, get mortally wounded, and then what was going to happen was Arya was going to put him down, something that she didn't do before, that instead she was going to do now. And it'd be kind of like, it would be sad, but it would be someone that she always had on her list. Instead, you had that kind of crazy situation where they're going into the castle. Arya's like, I'm going to go kill Cersei, and she is all fired up about it. And then all it takes is Clegane to turn around and be like, no, you have to leave. Revenge is bad. And she was like, oh, okay, see you later. So I did not understand, other than the fact that they just needed to get her in that city for her to see the destruction. She could have seen it from anywhere, but apparently they wanted her in the city to see it. That was the whole entire reason for her to go to King's Landing, I guess. There was no other point to it. So, and then there were some other stories too. This week's video that I did was based on Jaime and his death. Again, I thought that could have been a lot more interesting. Him just getting crushed under the castle with Cersei. Okay. Felt really, really, really truncated. And then on top of that, you had that ridiculous, which I felt was a totally ridiculous fight between him and Euron Greyjoy. It wasn't... I don't even understand the point of it. Like, I guess they felt they had built Euron up big enough that he couldn't just die to the dragon blasting fire onto the ship that he was on. So they decided for this cockamamie plan where he jumps off the ship, floats around in Blackwater Bay, and happens to come ashore right at the point where Jaime is entering the castle, and right at the time that he is entering the castle. And then they have like this throwdown. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. He just washed right up next to it. It was like, hello. I did not understand that. That was the most coincidental meetup in the history of Game of Thrones. Like, there's been a lot of moments where characters got to each other, and you were like, okay, but that's kind of the story. They're it's a fantasy. There's things you suspend disbelief a little bit, but that was a little bit crazy. He's on a ship. It gets blown up. He gets thrown in the water. There's a dragon flying around, destroying everything, and he just floats his way up to the Red Keep, underneath the Red Keep. So Euron says, "Do you hear that? The sound of a city dying." And he swam towards it. He was in the water. He could have tried to get someplace else. He went to it. Why? Was he going to save Cersei? He doesn't seem like the type of guy that was going to be doing that, especially when he knew that she was going to be dead. So, I don't know. The whole thing just made no sense. And yeah, the last line when he was like, I killed the Kingslayer. Good for you. I don't know, Euron. It was weird. It was a really weird scene. Just Cinder, hello, how are you doing? Welcome to the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'll do our best to answer them or just to talk about them. I don't have any answers. I just like talking about this show and this story because it's interesting. Torborn, I hope I'm saying your name right with Torborn there, Bjorn there. And the teleporting, how did Jaime Arts and the Hound get to King's Landing? Yeah, so that was the thing. Well, everybody, when you think about the whole, yeah, exactly, the whole army got there. So they got. That's what I'm talking about. The time compression. It's hard to tell how much time is passing. Like, I couldn't figure out. Basically, last week or 2 weeks ago, the dragon gets killed by the Iron Fleet. And then this week, Jon Snow shows up on the... or not this week, but last week, Jon Snow shows up on the ship, comes up, is asked basically, where's the army? He's like, they'll be at King's Landing in 2 days. But we got no indication of how long all that stuff happened. We don't know how long Dany was locked in her room. It felt she could not have been locked in her room not eating for 2 months, right? She'd be dead. So it made it all feel like this was happening within the course of like a week. So, man, everyone was really sailing fast and running hard and getting to where they needed to go. There was no... It feels like Winterfell and King's Landing are like, 50 miles apart. That they can cover this distance in like a day or 2 days or a week. It doesn't feel like it did in the first episode when it was like we're heading down to King's Landing from Winterfell, like when Ned was heading down there. It was a long trip. Him and King Robert, they had time to stop off on the side of the road and talk about old times and have a picnic, and it wasn't something that was just like, let's just get to the King's Landing and we'll be there in 2 weeks. In fact, it was so long that there was worries that after the attack happens on Bran, to try to take Bran's life, Caitlyn's like worried about what she's going to do because she's going to be gone for so long trying to go and find Ned. And now people are just flying around with, portal machines apparently. So it's the time compression thing. They want this series wrapped up, so they're just basically running over all of the. And again, that's the downside of this. They're running over all of the beautiful world that was built up over 6 years. They're destroying it by compressing everything as much as they can. Let's see here. We got. I know, but I want to know what you think. Who do you think will end up on the throne, if anyone? I'm going to make a safe bet here. I think it's going to be... Oh man, this is tough. This is tough. If it was me who was writing this, it would be Jon Snow. It seems obvious. But now that I think about it, that these writers don't particularly like to make things obvious, or they don't like doing the obvious choice, I'm going to say Sansa. I'm going to say Sansa Stark ends up being the queen. Arya kills Dany. Jon Snow maybe goes to try to stop her, and she ends up killing him too because he's not a real Stark. And then they put Sansa in. I'm totally wrong. That's a guess. I really don't understand what's going to happen. Last week they threw me for such a loop. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, so Camel Clyde talks about, I'd like to see someone remove their face at least one more time, maybe Arya or Dany or Jon or someone. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. I think that we're going to see Arya use the faceless man trick one more time to kill Dany, and then that should be the major reckoning there, and we're going to end up going to be we're going to be in a weird position after that. So I know Torborn. I only got like an hour and a half to actually watch it. It's coming up, so I appreciate that. I know the information's out there. But I like the idea of trying to guess right up to the last minute. So I do appreciate that and I'm probably way off, and that's fine. Like the thing was, I was way off last week, and I'm going to be way off this week, and then we'll call it, and I'll be fine with that. Whatever the ending is what it is. I don't get, I wasn't even really too angry about last week. I will admit that when Dany started to burn everybody, I did say out loud, why, right? I basically asked, like, why? Why is this happening? Because I felt like the setup for her going mad was way too short. And so I get why. I understand what they were getting at, but it just didn't feel right. It felt like it was very rushed. She just kind of went like that and snapped, and it didn't fit all we knew about her all the time, that she liked people. She likes people. She's trying to save innocent people all the time. And then she kills a million of them in one shot. And I just was crushed by the idea that that's how they were going to do her character. But I can see why Emilia Clarke, when asked about the finale of the show, was like, had such a strong reaction. And if you haven't seen that, go on YouTube. The videos are out there about her reacting to being asked about the final, how she felt about the finale and about the final season. And she was just like, you could tell, like, her face was like, man, my character really goes kind of off the rails. And she didn't seem too happy about it. So Wasted again takes a guess here where he says it opens with a smoky King's Landing. Dany kills Jon. Arya kills Dany. Tyrion and Sansa take the throne. I agree with you. Now that's not true what Wasted says here. Well, like who knows? Who knows? It doesn't matter. I'm totally shocked. I don't know what's going to happen, man. And I'm who the heck knows? So we'll find out. We're going to find out in not too long. I'm going to run this stream probably till about 8 o'clock or so, and then I'm going to go have a little dinner and go from there. So hopefully you guys will be able to enjoy it, even though it's kind of gone a little sideways. Who do I think is going to die? Okay, so like Camel Clyde wants to see Drogon live. I don't know how they're going to resolve that. If where do we get those sweet shares? I got this off of Amazon. So I just go on Amazon.com, and it's DX Racer. I don't get paid any money from them. I just had this chair for a long time. They're a good chair. I like it. The only thing I got to say about it, and they'll probably not like this, is that the piston that holds the chair together is not the greatest. I'm not a small man. I'm not massive, but I'm not really small. So I got like the big boy style, which is supposed to hold more weight and be more structurally sound. And still, like inside the main post of this chair, the bearings, got all crappy in there, and I had to replace them. And I've had to replace them a second time since then. The chair like will click and get all weird and things like that. So that's where I got this. At Amazon. I'm sure that they do a sale every once in a while or something like that. Let's see, how long until 8 for me? That's about an hour and 20 minutes or so. So we'll see. I'm gonna go have some dinner. Made myself some nice pasta, and I'll just go have a bowl of that before the show starts. I'm having an adult beverage now. Maybe I should just do the videos like this. I don't know. How do I do it? There, like that. Oh, yeah, look at that. That works pretty good. So maybe I should just do the videos like this from now on. And, you guys don't have to look at my ugly mug the entire time. Oh, my ugly mug. Get it? The pun? I'm a genius. Well, Torborn, yes. So that's the thing. Like, if I had a guess about like a death there, Tyrion makes sense, right? Because of the fact that she literally warned him in the last episode that one more mistake and it was curtains for him. And then he immediately goes running with a little key to let his brother out. And the very idea that the bells ring is got to be an indicator to Dany that Jaime got there, right? Because, how else would Tyrion be aware that the bells ringing were going to be a sign of surrender, right? Unless he had sent someone inside. And so she's going to know. Jaime's gone. The bells rang. There has to be a rat here, and he's the rat. And so, Tyrion living to the end. That is has always been, I felt like, a little bit of a long shot. He is he's a character that's always been very living on the edge, shall we say. When you think about it, he survived 2 trials by combat, one legitimately and one through escape. He's had a lot of near misses over the years, and so his time is probably on the horizon. It would make perfect sense if Tyrion was to go, but that's the thing. I have to admit, as much as I hate to admit it, because of the way they have been, quote unquote, subverting what we would expect, that I would not be totally surprised if he lived, right? So I know you have insider information, or at least you think you do from the spoilers, or that you saw a leaked episode, or there was a leaked episode. But the thing is that the way they've played out this last 6 episodes feels like anything could happen. It does not matter what your character has done up until this point. And so, for all I know, Tyrion ends up being the king in the end. People have been pulling for him. I felt that was the longest shot. But then again, I also thought that there was no way Dany was going to be the Mad Queen. So, Torben says, but when that happens, has Tyrion already gone to those guys? You think, when is the episode? Does Dany kill him or set him on fire? Who knows? It's probably going to be something where Tyrion. I wouldn't be surprised if he has another trial. But I don't know. Dany doesn't seem like a trial type of person to me. Dany just seems like the type of person who will pull him aside or just have him, chained up and burned alive now. She's a psychopath. So, she's not going to think twice about just murdering him. So we got any other questions, or what some of your guys' thoughts about, the show in general? What not non-spoilery, obviously, but if you have an idea of what you think is going to happen tonight. Not to get too deep, but to just see where you guys are thinking things might be going. I have ideas, but like I said, man, I'm done. I'm out of the prediction game. After last week, I'm out of the prediction game. So, what do you guys think might be the situation in the coming episode? Let's do this. Let's say Brienne. Will we see Brienne again? What do people think about Brienne coming back? Isn't John angry with Danny? You think? Yeah, I think he would probably be pretty angry. I think he'd be, if he's not angry, he's definitely disappointed. So I can't imagine that he would really be happy and high-fiving her. But especially at the end, he had to basically have his own men. I happen to watch this episode twice. I don't generally do that, but I did watch this one twice because my fiance did not watch it live last Sunday. So I just watched it again last night, or this morning, excuse me. And John had to get his own men out of the city from the danger that Danny was posing to everyone in it, including himself and Davos Seaworth, and even other people that Danny professes to be friends with. So I'm not sure how any of them can be really pleased with her. We'll see. I can't imagine that they're all very happy about how this has played out, because they all had a hope for her just like we did, and so in a way we kind of are in they played our part, right? Like we were in their shoes during that episode where we all had a certain expectation for what was about to happen, and Danny totally threw it out the window. So we are unhappy, and I have to assume so would they be. If they're not, if they're okay with it, it's totally going to be something that I can't fathom. Then it's going to be totally something out of my wheelhouse to try to figure out what's going on. Camel Clyde says, "Sweet Brienne. Well, I'd say we will see her since she is oath to Sansa, and I would think we will see Sansa again. I hope." I think so too, Camel. I think that it's going to happen. I feel that Sansa, if the North does not show up to this stuff, if the North isn't like part of this show, it would be shocking to me, because they have to be reconciled. They've been a big part of this whole. Really, when you think about it, the North is a big part of why all of this happens, right? This whole wheel of the War of the Five Kings and everything else, gets set into motion because of the actions in the North, right? Ned dies, and then the North marches, and Robb Stark starts a war. So there has to be a comeuppance there. There has to be some sort of connection back or a reconciliation between the South and the North. How they achieve that is what's going to be difficult for me to understand or to predict, because they kill Danny. If they kill Danny, then the issue that happens is, like you mentioned earlier about with Drogon. What's going to happen? Is Drogon just going to turn to Jon Snow and be like, "Well, hey, you're a Targaryen, bro. Let's just hang out here, and you're king, bro"? I don't think that's really how that's going to play out. It would seem ridiculous to me if it did. It would seem too simple, but like simple seems to be kind of what they do a little bit now. If Drogon just left, I still don't know if I totally understand that, because Jon basically, or whomever, killed his mother, and the dragon had no reaction, which would seem totally out of character for the dragon. And now we're talking about like writing for an animal. And so I don't know. I don't know how we get to this point of how it all reconciles out between everybody that's involved here. Let's see. There is conclusion about the North and the South. That's good. Just Cinder says the North was really only a part of the White Walker story, Eric, and they kind of just threw that out the window with episode 3. So the North at large, they had joined forces with Robb Stark initially to march on King's Landing and name Robb the King of the North. And then, Robb dies at the Red Wedding, and there are other issues that arise out of that. Then they kind of reform after Jon is able to come back and everything like that. So the reconciliation there is that there's always been a Stark in Winterfell. That's the way that's their saying. There's always been a Stark in Winterfell. And Sansa, you can see, has definitely been pushing to be the Stark in Winterfell. She wants to be number one. For that to happen, Jon's got to be out of the way. And that kind of goes back to last week. I thought that Jon was going to die because that would have gotten him out of the way. Had Jon died last week in some tragic, part of the battle, then you would have seen Sansa be able to easily move up the ladder. And he's out of direct competition. And then that also would have helped Dany's story if she was going to be the ultimate ruler, because then maybe between her and Sansa there could have been some reconciliation where they both loved Jon and things like that. As it appears now, Dany is a crazy person, and so Jon cannot possibly, as the person that he tries to be, which is like this, honorable, honest man, he can't just turn to her and be like, "Hey, I love you anyway. You just killed 1 million people, but it's okay. We're cool." So my feeling would be that, that reconciliation now has to come between Sansa and Dany, because Jon has to realize at this moment he's made a grave mistake in trusting Dany. So we'll see what happens here. So someone will rule it out of characters we have left. Yeah, I'm assuming someone will rule it, but then again, maybe not. There's been a push about online for people saying that they're part of this story might be that ruling families are not where this thing ends, that actually it's part of the destruction of that system. That seems like a big stretch for an hour and 20-minute episode to reform the entire governmental system of Westeros, but they've managed to do a lot of other things in very short time, so we'll see if that's one of the things that will happen. Wasted Again says, Drogon flies away. What happens during winter? What happens years after whoever takes the throne during their reign? Well, those are, stories that, no one's written yet, but I mean, if Drogon flies away, I don't know. What happens to this story? How does it end? Where you're kind of hitting on the point, Wasted, where it's like, how does this end where it makes sense for this to be a world that still exists, right? That's why, as much as I may have liked the character of the Night King or the White Walker presence as this, or the others as they're known in the book, as this presence of a deep threat to the people, the chances of them ever actually winning would have to be small, or else you're going to be talking about a world that ends, right? That it's just over, and there's finality there. Not to say that that's not what Martin could have done with his stories. He could have easily made this where the infighting of these little kingdoms leads ultimately to the demise of humanity, right? That the walkers win because these people couldn't all get on the same side. They couldn't do what heroes are supposed to do and band together. That didn't happen. The Night King ended up being killed along with, all of his followers. So, trying to suss out now how this story plays out, where it is going to be a world that continues to exist after we all turn the program off, or that after the last book is closed, that in our minds as readers and watchers, we can still imagine this world continuing on. With Dany at the helm as this massive lunatic, it doesn't seem impossible that the world would continue on. It had a mad king before, now it would have a mad queen, but that would feel like the story just kind of went right around to where it all began, right? Because Robert's Rebellion starts out of this, love for someone who did not return it, and also that there was a mad king on the throne. if the story was to go through Robert's Rebellion, the birth of Jon Snow, the death of the Mad King, the rise of Daenerys, all of this stuff, the Night King and so forth, and then all the way come back to where we're almost at now with Dany being the Mad Queen, it's like we went nowhere. It's like everybody went nowhere. In fact, almost so nowhere that there is there's a Baratheon at Storm's End, right? Because Dany placed Gendry as Lord of Storm's End. So legitimately, everyone, all the families, with the exception of the Lannisters, unless Tyrion lives, would be exactly where they were prior to the start of everything. And so it would be just like you're on a treadmill and you're starting it all over again. I can't see that being the way that was going to be, that the show ends. But it could. They have kind of thrown some curveballs here over the past few weeks, so it's totally possible we end up in the same exact boat that the show started off at. That would be so unsatisfying. I imagine many people would throw their TVs out the window. So I don't see that being the way it's going to go. So the only way I can see it going forward is there has to be reconciliation, or there has to be some sort of, we have to be able to scrub away the bad. And to scrub it away means that someone other than Dany has to rule. Jon facilitated Dany's rise, and he facilitated Dany doing what she did at King's Landing. I'm not sure he can be the ruler. It wouldn't seem to make sense to me that now, that same episode where Varys was like, you will rule justly and you will make good decisions, legitimately lasted 5 seconds. Within the next 5 minutes of that show, he realized that he had made not only a mistake, but the most massive mistake that one could make, which was trusting a person who was completely insane and a psychopath. So he doesn't seem like the greatest ruler. Sansa has been foreshadowed, I think, a little bit with Arya saying, she's the smartest person I know, and that she's had this massive story arc where she went from nobody, that really she just wanted to be a periphery, right? She wanted to be an accessory. When you think back to season 1, that she was like, I want to be married to the king and have his babies, and that. She wanted nothing to do with rulership. And now she not only has come all the way up to rulership, but now you can see she does want it, and that she'd probably be good at it. She's the only one that's ever talked any sense, it feels like, in every episode. She talked sense when they first talked about bringing up Dany's army, and she's like, how are we going to feed all these people? She was the only one to notice that. And then after the battle with the White Walkers, she was the only person that said, half of our people are injured. We should let them rest. And everyone was like, no, we're not listening to you. That makes too much sense. So she seems like she could be a pretty good ruler. Could she be ruler of the entire kingdom? As Torborn's saying, she belongs as ruler of the North. She does belong as ruler of the North, but maybe she's the one that truly combines the kingdoms. Or maybe the kingdoms just get split. Maybe they just smash it into two and say, listen, we weren't meant to mix together. So we'll just be two separate kingdoms. You stay on your side of the fence, and we'll stay on ours, and we'll call it a history. But again, that makes that, at least that allows the world to continue on and potentially have interesting things happen in it, where the North and the South are still kind of bitter at one another and fight with each other and stuff like that. Yeah, Campbell's saying that John loves her and it's a Shakespearean tragedy. Well, that's kind of what Martin likes. Martin likes bittersweet endings, and so the death of one of these characters makes perfect sense, if not both. So that would kind of fit what he usually, I think, has been going for since the beginning. So we'll see how it plays out. I wouldn't be surprised if both die. I definitely would be surprised if both live. So I'm going to just go ahead and make that a prediction. One of them is going, deep six tonight, but most likely I would say both would make more sense. It'd be a little bit bittersweet that way too, because at least you'd realize they were both not fit, or Jon dies tragically, whereas Dany gets her comeuppance for her actions of last week, and then someone who is fitting takes over as the ruler of Westeros, if anybody. So. And Torborn talking about the writing, and he is right. The idea that that's a quote saying we forgot about the writing. Yeah, good writing. They also said crazy things like, how Daenerys forgot about the Iron Fleet, which is like, oof, that was ugly. Mrs. Sad Song, hello, how you doing tonight? Thanks for coming in. We're only going to be chatting for maybe another 5 minutes here or so, and then I'm getting out of here to go have some dinner. But if you have anything you'd like to add or talk about here, feel free to chime in. And I know, the leaks were right last week. That's what I heard. I did not read them before, and I haven't read the ones here either. So for this week, I just would rather just be surprised by it, and that's what I've done the entire time, with the exception of I had read the books prior to the series coming out, and that's why I was pleasantly surprised when the series, at least at the beginning, stuck to the story, that the shocking moments right from the get-go, like season 1, with Ned Stark dying and so forth, have been great. So what mic do I have? You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. This was and it probably sounds it. It is a $20 mic I got off of Amazon. I'm sure it's made by some fine company in China. The thing here says BM-800. Whatever that is. And that was my wonderful chair, I think, that just snapped. So, like I said, I get things as cheap as I can off of the internet. So, Wasted Again says the books were so good. Yep, you were right. I love the books, but the show was good too. I enjoyed the books, the show. I enjoy the show. I still do. I wouldn't be here talking about it or waiting to watch it in an hour if I did not like it. So I truly do, and so we'll see what happens. Kim Clyde says, well, I do believe that Dany has broken the wheel. I'll be sad if she dies and doesn't get to rule for a time. I think we might see a little bit of her rulership tonight. I think that's kind of what we're gonna end up seeing, is we're gonna witness her rulership, and it will be potentially short-lived, just because of how she's kind of crazy. Someone's gonna say we got to get rid of her. So let's see. It sounds okay. Oh, thank you very much, Cinder. It's okay. It's just literally, like, I think I got it with the arm and stuff. I got it off of Amazon for $20, I think, even with the arm and all that stuff. I got like a box to connect it to the computer and such, I think, for another $20. So it wasn't too bad. Wasted Again says, Varys leaves us on that cliffhanger at the end of A Dance of Dragons. Yep, and that's the thing. So we'll see. The books could go in will go in a different direction in terms of the major, like, who is involved, like, with some of this stuff. But I feel like the major beats are going to be kind of the same. Everyone says, gonna see her rule, but she is crazy. And you can tell, I mean, like, she lost it last week. She killed millions of people. So there's no question that she's off of her rocker. Camel Clyde says, I'm probably alone in this, but Team Dany for life. Well, I was with you on that one, Camel. I thought that that's where this story was headed. I thought that last week I had thought that the madness that they had been talking about was a red herring, that they were basically throwing that out there to try to confuse us as viewers, or that was going to be the subversion, that they were going to keep on playing up her madness, and then at the top of the arc, she was going to make the right decision, and we were going to get instead turned on by somebody else was going to end up making the turn on us. Instead, they just played it straight. She could be mad, she is mad. And that was just kind of how it went. And I felt it was disappointing because her character had built so much over such a long time. To have her suddenly throw it all away, it was devastating because she was a great character. What I think is amazing is think of how many people out there have named their children Daenerys or Khaleesi, and now they are realizing they named them after essentially the Westeros version of Hitler. Amazing. I like, maybe the show writers did that on purpose. I don't even know. It's a sick sense of humor, but it is truly amazing to think that there are little children running around right now with the name of essentially a person who committed genocide in a show on TV. So we'll see. Oh, and so there you go. Wasted again. I said the same thing. Imagine if you named your kid Daenerys. I mean, it's true. It's like that's the part that I can't believe is that like this is probably why you shouldn't. I know people that name their dogs after. I couldn't imagine naming a person after this, but I know I know people that name their dogs like Khaleesi and I forget what the other one was. Like it was Khaleesi and whatever the word for mother was. I think that's what she named. She named the two dogs. So now she's named her two dogs after a fictional character on TV that committed genocide. So that's something that she can talk about with friends for a long time. So, all right. Well, so it's 8:00 now, guys. It's been about an hour that I've been streaming. So I'm going to go and I'm going to have some dinner and then get ready for the big show. Thanks for watching. I should hopefully have a video up this week. It's a little busy this week, but I'll try to get one up about something. I don't really do reviews. I just basically pick a plot point or pick a character that I think had an interesting arc or an arc that didn't really, what's been happening recently is that an arc that didn't hit the notes that it should have. And that's basically what I focus on. I don't really do reviews, so to speak. So hopefully I'll have one up this week. If I do, thanks for watching this, and thanks for stopping by. And maybe we'll do another chat in the future. Maybe I'll do a chat this week about what we're about to watch. I'll keep you informed. But thanks for stopping, and I'll see you later. Where's the pasta at? Go eat the pasta. All right, I'll go eat it. See you guys later. Have a great night, okay? Bye-bye.